Thank you, Presiding Officer. Bill Bowman introduced Andy Groves to the debate, and I thought there was another quote that might be useful in this debate. The ability to recognise that the winds have shifted and to take appropriate action before you wreck your boat is crucial to the future of your enterprise. Or in Dutch, ein schip op het strand is een beacon varam zee. A shipwreck on the shore is a warning to the sailor, is a saying that's well recognised. Andy Groves, of course, talks in his autobiography about strategic inflection points, when something suddenly happens that you haven't seen coming and how you respond to that. And in history, it's happened many times. When Fritz Haber discovered the importance of nitrogen fixing, it led to the end of the run rig system of agriculture, to enclosure and the removal of many people from the lands. That is, of course, the benefit, you could argue, of why there was a workforce to create the Industrial Revolution. Not sure it helped the people very much. Their lives were much more miserable in the city squalor that they experienced than it probably had been in the rural area. By the same token, McCormick's reaper, invented in the 1830s, transformed the way in which employment worked in agriculture, and of course Cartridge's power loom of 1780s absolutely threw many people out of work. The division of labour has de-skilled many people over the years. It's not new. Plato's Republic referred to the division of labour, so it's an idea that's been around a long time. Adam Smith talked about it in his Wealth of Nations in relation to the manufacture of pins, so we know. Now, that's the mechanical world and the threats that have been. Computers bring their own new threats. First of all, computers from the 1960s onwards automated routine activities that were often done by vast numbers of people in back offices, then moved to creating new products that displaced existing products from markets. And with the advent of the internet, they threaten and will threaten even more in future our high streets as retail changes. And the next big revolution is here with us now, and that is artificial intelligence, which will displace many intellectual activities. So therefore, I will, yes.
Elaine Smith.
Thank the members for taking an intervention, and if I might just share something else that Dave Watson in his article today said, which was, like all new technology, the robots probably won't deliver all that they promise. In the meantime, human beings in the workplace deserve a bit more dignity and will deliver more without being turned into robots. I wonder if a member would agree with me that the dignity of labour and dignity in the workplace are extremely important.
Stewart Stevenson.
The member is absolutely correct. I haven't read Dave Watson's article. I will make sure that I do before the sun goes down behind the yardarm or whatever it does later in the day. I think the important thing, however, is I want to just give a few further reflections on what happened in Fraserburgh, because that's the experience I've had of pace. And there are one or two things that are sort of not process things that it's worth looking at. Getting all the people in the room that we had, and the government very generously provided tea, coffee and biscuits. There was a lot of genuine informal networking in breaks in the meeting, before the meeting, after the meeting, that I suspect had as much value as the formal session round the square of the table in the leisure centre in Fraserburgh. And it also meant that some people who had responsibilities couldn't escape the people who were affected by how they discharged those responsibilities. And I think that was quite important. The other thing that I saw in the Fraserburgh experience, we never, as far as I'm aware, discussed it, but it appeared to work on a Chatham House basis. In other words, we were able to open up and talk about things in some comfort that what was said in that room would not be taken up and used to disadvantage the people who are present outside that room. Although, of course, as under Chatham House rules, we could refer to the matters that were discussed in that room. Now, I don't know of other interventions and major events like the hundreds of people who were going to lose their jobs in Fraserburgh. It's typical of how it worked. But I thought that these soft things about how it actually worked in practice, driven by the personal characteristics of many people in the room. The trade unions were there. I think at the first meeting we had 3 or 4 trade unionists present, and Unite did an excellent job in representing their workers. But even they had a difficulty because in the factory concerned, we had a huge international workforce, multilingual, and there was support on translation services that helped the unions make better contact with many of the people who weren't actually union members for all sorts of historical reasons, but nonetheless properly required the kind of support that came from the trade unions. So creating that opportunity for people in the room to be supported, to support the workers, was a very good aspect. Having the company in the room, because the company essentially was being run from Hull, with management decisions really being made in Hull, and a competition between the opportunities in Hull and in Fraserburgh, each offering different things. But having the company in the room made a huge difference to their understanding of the future and the future support that they could be given to the future development of their facility in Fraserburgh. And I think that ultimately protected that facility for the longer term. And Oliver Mundell might be interested to know that because of where it was, we had both Highlands and Islands Enterprise and Scottish Enterprise in the room. And that was immensely valuable because they each brought different things specific to their areas, just as I'm sure the South of Scotland Enterprise Company will do so. It was exactly, of course, one of these strategic inflections that got us to the task force. It was the quite sudden and unexpected loss of the most profitable contract, because the purchaser took that business and put it elsewhere, that created the need for the PACE response for that. So I think I will simply end by saying, if anybody's learned anything, Richard Leonard has earned the curse of the 140 characters on Twitter. Let's hope Donald Trump learns it sometime soon as well. Presiding Officer.